Let's jump right into this. Our goal in this explainer is to completely demystify the system design interview. For a lot of engineers, this 45-minute whiteboard session is literally the most intimidating part of the entire hiring loop, especially if you're aiming for top tech companies. But today, we're going to break it down. We're using real data, actual insights from hiring managers, and a super concrete real-world case study. By the time we wrap up, you're going to know exactly how to structure your thoughts to absolutely master this challenge. Okay, let's dive into this with a number that should immediately grab your attention: 90%. Seriously. According to a hiring manager at a major EU scale-up, 90% of candidates fail their system design interview in the very first 5 minutes. It's wild, right? And it's not because they don't know how to code, and it's definitely not because the question is some unfair, impossible task like, designing the next Uber for 1 billion users. No, it is almost entirely due to how they begin. Here's the blunt truth, straight from that hiring manager. They noted that the vast majority of candidates follow absolutely no structure whatsoever. And crucially, they jump into designing before they even understand the problem. Really think about that. Jumping straight into sketching out an architecture without actually gathering the requirements, it's a fatal trap. You lose immediately. It basically signals to the interviewer that you're just guessing rather than, actually engineering. So here's our roadmap to fix that approach and elevate you to senior-level thinking. First, we'll cover the 5-minute failure. Second, the FANG framework. Third, the 2026 toolkit. Fourth, we'll run through a rate limiter case study. And finally, handling failure. Let's get right to it. Section 1. The 5-minute failure. Why candidates bomb early. We really need to draw a line in the sand right now between a software doer who just writes code and a software thinker who plans. Look, in a 45-minute pressure cooker of an interview, building abstract solutions without validating edge cases or business needs, that guarantees a rejection. You might hear design a URL shortener and think you know exactly what that means. But what's the scale? Who are the actual users? What's the read-to-write ratio? If you just start rattling off a list of technologies without clarifying the scope, the constraints, and the use cases, you're designing the wrong system. It is a guaranteed fail, for sure. Section 2. The FANG framework. The blueprint for success. Okay, so there is an exact, structured blueprint that top tech companies use to evaluate you. Strong candidates follow this linear, absolutely non-negotiable 4-step process. Number 1, you gather requirements, both functional and non-functional. Number 2, you estimate capacity, figuring out your queries per second, storage, and bandwidth. 3, you sketch the high-level design. And 4, you deep dive into specific areas and actually talk through the trade-offs. The absolute biggest mistake you can make? Skipping those first 2 steps? Because without scoping and estimating, you literally have zero data to justify your design choices later on. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what separates a junior offer from a senior offer. At the L3 or L4 level, interviewers might forgive you for waiting for a little guidance or just proposing a clean architecture. But to hit that L5 or L6 staff level, you have to completely own the session. You've got to proactively drive the conversation, justify your database choices using those capacity numbers you calculated earlier, and anticipate bottlenecks before the interviewer even brings them up. It's all about demonstrating proactive judgment. Section 3. The 2026 Toolkit. Modern Design Cheat Sheet. System design is always evolving, right? The concepts that mattered back in 2020 just aren't the only ones you need to know today. Take the CAP theorem, for example. We all know it, but let's talk about the Passel-C theorem. This basically extends CAP by stating that even when a system is running completely normally, meaning no network partitions, you still have to trade off between latency and consistency. Dropping Passel-C into your interview conversation immediately signals to your interviewer that you aren't just reciting some 5-year-old textbook, you're actually current on modern distributed system trends. You also have to absolutely master your data storage trade-offs. Just throwing out a name like Postgres or DynamoDB, not going to cut it anymore. You have to objectively justify why you're choosing it. Are you going with SQL because your system absolutely demands strict, strong consistency? Or are you grabbing NoSQL because you're dealing with a write-heavy system that desperately needs flexible horizontal scaling? Look, every single choice gives up something, and you need to voice those costs out loud. On top of that, interviewers in 2026 are specifically listening for modern trends. Nightly batch jobs? Mostly out. Real-time defaults using event streams? Definitely in. If the product you're designing involves AI, you had better be ready to talk about vector databases and embeddings. And here is a huge one: cost awareness. Avoiding over-provisioning proves that you actually understand the business impact of your architecture. It shows you know how to keep your CTO from literally fainting when the monthly cloud bill arrives. Section 4. Rate Limiter Case Study.
putting theory to practice.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how we take all of that abstract theory and apply it to one of the most classic FANG interview questions, designing a rate limiter. So what actually is it? Well, think of it like a bouncer at a nightclub. Let's say the club only holds 500 people. The bouncer counts who goes inside, and once it hits that 500 mark, everyone else have to wait in line until someone leaves. In a software system, a rate limiter basically caps client requests within a specific time window. And from a business perspective, this is absolutely vital. It stops bad actors from executing DDoS attacks, prevents brute force credential stuffing, and protects you from massive, unbounded cloud bills.
When you get asked to design one, you've got to know the core algorithms. There are basically 4 main ones: the token bucket, the leaky bucket, the fixed window counter, and the sliding window. But just listing them isn't the test. To actually ace the interview, you need to compare their trade-offs effectively.
Let's look at the most critical comparison for standard API design: token bucket versus fixed window counter. The fixed window is dead simple, right? But it has a massive flaw. Let's say your limit is 100 requests a minute. A user could technically send 100 requests in the very last second of the first minute, and then 100 more in the first second of the very next minute. Boom, they just doubled your allowed traffic limit in 2 seconds. And that is exactly why the token bucket is the default industry choice. It's highly memory efficient, and it naturally handles the way real users actually interact with APIs, with sudden, unpredictable bursts of traffic.
But how do you actually scale it? Well, if you do your initial capacity estimation and realize you're designing for something like Twitter scale, let's say 1.7 million queries per second, your entire architecture changes. At 1.7 million QPS, a database disk read is completely out of the question. It's just way too slow. You literally must rely on an atomic, in-memory data store like Redis, so you can check and update those rate limit counters in sub-millisecond times.
Section 5. Handling failure. Avoiding fatal design mistakes.
Relying on a central data store like that brings us to the ultimate evaluation point for senior candidates: how you handle failure. Because, let's be real, in distributed systems, everything breaks eventually. I really want you to think about this question. What actually happens when your central Redis cluster goes down? If every single API request has to pass through the rate limiter first, a downed Redis cluster doesn't just break the rate limiter. It has the devastating downstream effect of taking your entire API completely offline.
So the crucial point is how you design for that failure. Do you fail closed, meaning you deny all requests to protect your backend databases, but completely sacrifice total system availability? Or do you fail open, where you allow all requests, preserving availability for your customers, but taking on the risk of a total system overload if there happens to be a DDoS attack? In real production environments, most top-tier rate limiters actually choose to fail open, or they fall back to local instance counters. They basically accept a temporary loss of strict accuracy just to keep that core business API alive and kicking for the users.
And that brings us right back to the core lesson of the system design interview. Passing this isn't about memorizing some shopping list of tools. Anyone can sit there and say Redis, Kafka, or microservices, but a senior engineer, they objectively defend those decisions. They explain exactly why a token bucket over a fixed window protects the database better. They justify why they chose to fail open rather than fail closed based on the business's absolute bottom line need for uptime.
Which leaves us with one final provocative thought. When you step into that interview room next time and they hand you the marker, you've got a choice to make. Are you just going to start drawing boxes like a software doer? Or will you pause, ask the right questions, run the hard numbers, and prove that you are a true software thinker? The choice is entirely yours. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.